So, what's our Outlander podcast name?
I don't know. Two ladies who honestly watch too much TV as it is.
Right, and well, actually, I would say two ladies who podcast about enough TV as it is.
Right, exactly.
But, and we didn't get in on the ground floor of Outlander podcast, which actually, that looks like an intense job. So I see Outlander podcasters like traveling to Scotland and stuff and doing like live podcasts and I don't know more, which that's a big commitment. Kudos to them. So anyway, I like the idea of Once Upon a Time Traveler podcast.
There you go. I like that. Outlander cast. It's simple.
So here's the thing. I never expected you to fall in love with Outlander, and here we are. It's Monday night. We're supposed to be talking about another TV show, and you're like, I really want to talk about Outlander.
I have never really used the Stars app to watch it early, even though I know I could have. I've always known all along I could.
Yeah.
But it's, I've always just been kind of like, I'll watch it live. This episode, I was up at midnight.
Oh, me too.
Making sure. And then, the website wouldn't load, and I was like, come on, Stars, come on. Because I know everybody and their mothers were watching Outlander as soon as they possibly could.
Everyone was crashing it at midnight on Saturday.
Yeah, so it finally started, and I ended up watching it, and then I watched a whole nother half of it before I went to sleep. And you know what you have.
Yeah, of course I do. The half that I've also watched twice.
I mean, I watched the end of the episode right before that, just for the small, tiny scene. Mm-hmm. I probably rewound that on my DVR 20 times.
That's incredible.
So I knew that I was going to be watching A. Malcom multiple times.
So here's the thing. Here's the question I have to ask you. Now, just so everyone knows, I've read the books, all 8 books. There's a lot of Outlander books out there. So I've read all 8. You have read the first 2, but you have not read Voyager, which is the 3rd season, what the 3rd season is on. So Did you know what was going to happen, or how did you know?
The only thing I knew 100% for sure was the print shop, because everybody was already making because when the trailer came out, everybody started making parallels to the moment Claire walked in with the book, right then. So I saw that. I knew that was going to happen. I was so excited.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't know anything. And the only reason I wanted to read Voyager before the season started, but then it's 1,000 pages.
It is, yeah.
Couldn't get to it that late in my summer, so
it's an amazingly large commitment. I think it actually took me 2.5 years to read all 7 books, because at the time there were only 7 books out, and then the 8th book took me 2 years because I spread it out over 2 summers.
Yeah, I mean, I love her writing, and I love the books. It's just, it is a time commitment, and my goal is 50 books before the end of the year. And if I would have started Voyager, I wouldn't even come close to that goal. So
no, you'd be at 1. Or if you read the Outlander series, it's 2 maybe at best.
But I may do that this summer. I may not actually set a new reading goal at the beginning of the year, other than just read the entire Outlander series and see if I can do it in a year.
Okay. Well,
I'm going to do
I think you could. It's doable, for sure. It's a commitment, but it's doable. So, okay, back to this episode and the season in general. Okay, I have to get something off of my chest. One thing I have to say.
Okay.
This season has been dragging on for me, maybe because I just, everything was looking forward to that one scene. That's all I could think of.
Yes.
Is that one scene when they're back together, when Claire walks in and Jamie sees her. That is what I was waiting for. And so the rest of the season, which I think 5 episodes have passed so far.
Yes.
First of all, I was expecting that to be maybe 2.5 episodes.
Oh my gosh.
So I was picturing by the 3rd or 4th episode, we're definitely into it. No, it took 6 episodes. Partly, and not that I hated how they did it, but a lot of this season has been really just to build up the tension about, until they're back together.
Right.
And then, so it's been really an interesting ride for me because they've added a lot about Frank that has kind of ruined his character for me, because I was always sympathetic to Frank, but the show made everyone hate him because he's such he was a womanizer. And not to say that, it wasn't they had some issues with their marriage, but Just all the Frank stuff. I'm sorry. I couldn't stand it because I just was waiting for Jamie and Claire.
Well, you know what's interesting, though, is that there was just this really long article on BuzzFeed about stereotypes in the show, racial stereotypes in the show versus the book and how they've changed them. Because the book, and keep in mind, I have not read Voyager yet, but from this BuzzFeed article, it made Frank seem like he's really the one who pushed their marriage apart because he accused Claire of cheating on him with Joe. And it made Frank, just from that little excerpt I read, it didn't make it seem like he was really, I don't know, trying. The way the show made me feel sympathetic toward him in a way that I never did in the books. In the books, I don't care.
Okay. Different strokes for different folks on Frank, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I was never like his number one fan or anything. Ronald D. Moore is the one who I think is Frank's number one fan because he's devoted a lot of time to him in the series. But at any rate, I mean, it's kind of a sad story. So I was a little disappointed that they lingered on it for so long. But it was cool. I am glad they did it in the end because they dropped a few hints about some things that are coming up, which are really interesting. And, so what did you think in general about the episode?
Okay, so I guess I can't spend the entire time talking about the actual sex scene because that's honestly what we were all watching for. And that's actually why I liked the build-up for 5 episodes, because once you have that moment, you can't get a moment like that back. I mean, you can't, once you do it, it's over. You can't ever build up more or go back and say, I wish we could have, built that up more. So anyway, I really love that. But a couple of lines stuck out to me that made me swoon. And I'm not a swooner. I'm just not. But Jamie and Claire do it to me. And when he said, no amount of time can pay, she's still beautiful. Doesn't matter how long they've been apart. And he strokes her cheek. I'm like in tears right then. And then when she actually undresses and she gets a little, like, shy, like, she covers herself up, that insecurity that they did, I thought that was brilliantly acted, and I hope that was direction for her to actually cover herself, because it was a really, really great moment. I'm glad that someone thought of that. 20 years passed, you've had a baby, you're just not going to be that secure, especially when your husband looks like he just stepped out of a Fabio romance novel.
A romance novel, I know. There were definitely a few snippets in the series or in the episode that felt like they were kind of the cover shoot for a romance novel that I used to see in like grocery stores. Before the days of Kindle. You would see like taken by the Highlander or whatever.
Always, yeah.
Yeah. No, it was good though. I mean, I think some of that was to kind of give the idea that so much time had passed because even though
you can't tell otherwise.
Yeah, the actors didn't really age up. I mean, granted,
although there was some kind of like teaser or something released at the end of the episode or on Star's website or something, and there are clips with Jamie and Claire like totally gray. So, I mean, clearly there's definitely going to be a passage of time, or Claire just ran out of Clariol hair dye. I mean, she can't dye her hair anymore, and she's just totally gray. So I'm excited for that, too.
That's possible.
I want to see them age. I want to see them get older, because it makes more sense.
I mean, it's kind of weird, because it can come off as a little awkward if it's not done well enough with hair and makeup and everything. And I would think that would be quite daunting to keep up, especially in some of the situations that they're going to put them through. And I don't want to give you any spoilers, but like there's a lot of action adventure kind of stuff coming up, and I don't know how they would manage the sort of all of the makeup and things that have to be done. But I mean, I think they did it in a believable way, because you're taking they're both Katrina Balfe and Sam Heughan are both in their late 30s, so they can kind of like, they sort of rounded them up a little bit in a way, in a sense, and they gave Jamie some glasses, and they gave Claire the gray hair, which she then dyed, and maybe they'll bring that back. So I think it was enough to be believable, but I feel like the way they conveyed that passage of time was really through their mannerisms and their behavior.
I think so too. Yeah.
They're like, especially the way Sam played Jamie, it was like his behaviors were so much more measured and mature and like fatherly and
yes,
you know, and so it was really good because that's actually kind of how he became in the books too. Like the young Jamie was sort of the reckless warrior guy, and this Jamie is kind of like the career man, you know, with his little print shop career and his madame and like all of the. So yeah, let's talk about that. So the way they opened this episode was really interesting to me because in the show is very faithful to the books, but I think they're always trying to throw readers off a little bit.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
what are they going to change, you know? Like, by the way, P.S. Murtaugh has not had an emotional death scene, which did happen in the books, but they didn't do it in the television adaptation, so I don't know what's going to happen there. But anyway,
I'm nervous about that because I was just like,
Yeah.
okay, bye, Murtaugh. Like, I guess we're never seeing you again. I mean, he's already sickly and he's
Right.
old, so I'm just
Right.
kind of like, it's easy for me to accept that he's dead, but I know since I didn't see the death on the television screen,
but I mean,
I can't.
and he's supposed to be dead because that's how it happened in the books, but there was like this tearful goodbye when he died, so.
And I'm assuming he died in Culloden.
No, in prison.
Oh,
It was in
okay, it was still
prison.
a prison scene.
But so
Okay.
they had the time for him to do that when they were, you know, during
That's
all those
weird.
prison scenes, and they didn't do that. So
I mean, I thought he was going to die. I did, and
Yeah.
I'm sure that everybody else who's read the
Right.
books did too.
yeah, no, that's like what was supposed. So the show has thrown in a few random twists, but yeah, when they opened with Jamie, like, and the madame, I forget her name, that owns the brothel.
I wasn't paying attention to her name.
No, I know. She was like kissing him goodbye to go off to work, and it was
Yeah,
like,
I
such
was
a
like,
domestic
what
scene.
is this? Yeah, that really...
So
yeah.
this is what I'm curious for people who haven't read the books. Were you nervous that Jamie had married and moved on
Okay, here's the
at this
thing.
point?
This is something I am spoiled on. I know that he
Oh.
married... Yeah, I know that he
Oh.
married Leary. So I'm kind of like, are they going to bring that up? Like,
Yes,
are
they are.
Like that? They are. They are.
Yeah,
Right.
that was the legal thing that they mentioned. Remember when Jamie took Fergus
Oh,
aside and Fergus
yeah.
was like, "Oh wow, she's back." But what about? And then Jamie was like, I don't know.
Oh, oops.
I have to consult the lawyer."
No, I
Yeah.
think what made me more nervous is that they were going to have this madame be like some jealous. I mean, she is, but they didn't play her up yet. I don't know what they're going to do in the
She
future,
could have
but
been Jamie's version of Frank in this series, and
yeah,
Ronald
yeah.
D. Moore could have made this big thing out of her.
Exactly. It could have been real dramatic, and I just wasn't here for that.
Yeah, no, but it was good. I liked how it started out because it was, to me, it was neat because it showed how Jamie had moved on and had a life, because the series started, why do I keep calling it the series like I'm British or something? Series 1, Series 2, season started out with Jamie like wanting to die. And so when you think about it, it's only 5 episodes later and he's like, we see him as the career man in Edinburgh. So I don't know.
You know, I do have to say, and going back to that thought of what did I think, I actually thought, because I knew about the Leary thing, I thought that was Leary. Because I don't know all the details about it. I just know that it happens.
I think they'll probably use the same actress, though, for her, that they used in season 1.
Oh, so she's aged enough to make
I mean, hopefully they'll age her a little bit, because she was, like, really young in season 1.
Yeah, she was.
But yeah, if the actress is, I don't know how old the actress is, but she, I'm assuming they'll use the same one.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I wasn't for sure, so I assumed for like a little bit, I was like, oh, is that her? Here comes this. Wasn't excited for it. I'm still not excited for what it made me glad that
You should not be excited about it, by the way.
Well, it made me glad that Jamie told Claire right away about Willie. Because I was like, they could really drag this out, and then Bombshell Son shows up. And so I'm really glad that he told her, like, right out of the gate, hey, I had a kid.
I didn't like that because it took away from the Brianna bonding moment.
Yeah, there was that. That, and also when Jamie mentioned Faith, it felt very shoehorned into me.
Oh,
I was like,
yeah.
that's weird and awkward.
Yeah, that scene didn't quite go as I had hoped it would be, because I was looking forward to more of a touching kind of scene, but it was mostly Claire's paranoia about how many women Jamie has slept with while she's been gone.
That did come up more than once.
Yeah, she was now. Granted, I would be too, but she was really like, that was the overhanging elephant in the room kind of situation. Yeah, that was handled in an interesting way because Jamie still hasn't been 100% honest with her.
Yeah, there's still this thing. I mean, I can see why that wouldn't be what you lead with. You know, in this situation, like, you want to reconnect with your wife, right? So you're not going to be like, hey, by the way.
Yeah.
So, but it needs to come up soon for me to not be upset. Like, because everybody's going to take a side. Well, he did it for this reason, but then Claire's upset. So he needs to do it sooner rather than later, so I'm not just like, boy, bye. Like, you really messed up, and you had the opportunity, and you kept lying by omission. That irritates me when people do that for multiple episodes.
See, I wish you hadn't read that spoiler, though, because when it
was a total accident. I was not looking for it. Total accident.
Oh, man, yeah, don't go looking for other spoilers, although that's probably the main big one that I can think of. Okay. That you know. Like, the rest of Outlander, no joke, is almost episodic. Like, there's not quite the same feel to the entire series. Once Jamie and Claire are back together, it shifts. Like, it becomes a different kind of series, in my opinion. It becomes very much more about little adventures, like little pockets of adventure.
Oh, okay.
There's an overall narrative. I mean, Jamie and Claire are always in it, and there's some overall goals, and there's actually later in the series, there becomes more of a mystery. It's almost like Diana Gabaldon realized, oh, maybe if I'm going to write all these books, there should be like an overarching mystery to this. So she started to kind of wedge in this mystery, which has been building for the last couple of books. But it's going to be interesting to see how they adapt it, because the first book is such a thing of its own, and then the first 3 books are really kind of a thing of their own. And after that, it becomes like, let's go on an adventure in, and I won't tell you where, because that would also be a big spoiler. I'm trying not to say spoilers. But yeah, so it's going to be interesting how it pans out in the future. But so what did you think of Fergus? Because Fergus is a character that sticks around, which is great.
I was like, Claire's son is back. I love that scene. My favorite part was when Claire was like, you've grown into such a handsome man, and he's like, yeah, I have. Fergus knows what he's about. That hand situation, I'm glad he has a little wooden hand.
Yeah.
But when Claire noticed it, I think that those are the best parts about, like, not just the reunion aspect of it, but you really can tell, you can see how much time has passed. Yeah. And they played all of that so perfectly. It was written really, really well. There were just all these little things that make you visually see how much time has passed.
Right. So let's go back to the sex stuff, because we haven't talked about that enough.
That was the whole reason why I wanted to do this.
Yeah, I'm like, anyone who's listening to this is like, come on, Brittany.
I know, we're putting it off. The show did 5 episodes. We did, our time. Now we're to it. Okay.
We're dancing around it. But okay, here's the thing that I loved about it. A lot of shows, and not necessarily cable premium shows, I guess that's what makes the difference. But a lot of shows rush through this kind of thing. And like, I felt like Outlander does such a nice job for the most part of giving significant relationship moments time to sit there and breathe and just allow, the characters to really have the time to be together, which that is what was so successful in this episode, I thought, because they didn't have to rush through anything. Like, you had being so shy with each other, and like Jamie fainting, and then I would very much like to kiss you thing, which was so...
I love that.
I think that was the most romantic part of the
episode. I think it was.
So, I mean, it just gave them time, and then they got... various characters walked in on them, and, they got jolted out of the moment a few times, which was also kind of funny. And, by the way, the books are very much like that, so... if you wonder how to get through 1,000 pages of, how many more books would you have? 6 more books, but I think the next book comes out maybe next year. So if you wonder how you get through all of those, it's like the moments. Jamie and Claire are always in these kind of hilarious sort of situations, sometimes at very intimate moments. Let me just say there's a boat scene that I think other avid readers of the series are looking forward to.
Did you think that they had the same type of chemistry they had before their 20-year separation? Because I read some people saying things that just didn't feel like they were as connected as before. I didn't find that.
People will always complain about something.
True.
Like, I read a comment this morning on a blog somewhere that said something like his love scene with, what's the chick that's William's
oh yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Willie's mom.
Yeah, the conniving one who, whatever. Someone said, oh, that was a sexier scene. I'm like, what did you eat for breakfast this morning?
Here's the thing: what makes it sexy is that it's Jamie and Claire. Mm-hmm. Like there is such a stark difference between whatever her name was and Jamie
Ginevra,
with the one he actually Ginevra, and then Jamie being with the person he actually loves and wants to be with. Yeah, no, there's no way there's anything sexier than that. I'm sorry. No.
I actually thought the shy stuff was really sweet and actually very realistic too, in a way, because if you're apart from someone for quite a while, there can be like definitely some uneasiness as you're trying to remember how everything's working.
Yeah, get back. Yes, so, I completely agree.
Yeah, so I think they actually showed that really well, and I think that actually made it more relatable versus,
relatable to the last time I left this guy, and I'm counting down the days until 20 years have passed. Relatable. Relatable.
And you have to time travel 200 years.
Exactly.
For sure.
No, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, that was just funny.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of like the realism in their relationship. Now, the only thing is, in this series, I have often felt like Claire is never that happy. And book Claire, I'm not trying to nitpick the differences between the book.
I already agree with you. Already.
Book Claire isn't that happy, or is happier.
Yeah.
And TV Claire is very like dour. She can get very sour sometimes. But in this episode, she was very like sort of deer in the headlights, starstruck by Jamie, which was also a different approach than I would really think of Claire as being. But to me, that gave a different side of her that I really appreciated, because I felt like we haven't always seen that softer side of her.
Well, she had all the insecurities I would totally imagine she would have. Like, even in the previous episode, she was like, what if he forgot about me? Very valid. And then, what if he doesn't love me anymore? Also very valid. He's had a whole life. Just like she was saying, he's had a life.
Yeah.
Just because she couldn't move on with Frank doesn't mean that Jamie couldn't have moved on with someone else. So, all of her, those are things that I feel like, and I don't want to generalize, but I feel like even me, like I'm not even a straight woman, I would feel that about someone that I left for 20 years that I love. Like, that's just how it goes, I think. And so I liked that the show played that up and didn't make her super, super confident, because that would have been too much. So
yeah, like,
I love
I'm back. You're lucky to have me
I'm back. Are you ready to have me? Like, I mean, who wouldn't say that to Jamie? But anyway.
Well,
so yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought I like how that was all played. And basically, ever since I read the book, too, I've always felt like I would never be that confident enough. I mean, maybe I would be, but it would be really hard to be that confident enough to give up your entire life and a good job as a surgeon in 1960s Boston or 1970s Boston to travel back in time 200 years and give up all of your modern comforts and also
it's not like she's like, I'm gonna go visit this person on the other side of the world. Okay, no, like once you make this commitment, there's no going back.
You're kind of stuck. And so she did it, and it was brave because she could have just walked in on him with another family or like with 10 kids and like forget one wife, maybe he had a wife and a mistress, like who knows. She could have really walked in a bad situation, and so she was actually quite lucky, which I was relieved as a reader. And yes, there is that spoiler of he actually is technically married, but it's not. It's obviously based on this episode. It's not a hindrance. So
right, yeah. So other like just little teeny tiny moments during everything that went into the sex scene, I loved, and I was so like #blessed or whatever.
You were #blessed? Or
I was #blessed.
Along with Claire.
Yes.
You and Claire.
Claire, I'm with you, girl. No, when in the morning when they wake up and the person's bringing breakfast, yeah. And Jamie tells her to go away, and Claire's like, do you want to eat? And he's like, yes.
Yep.
And he goes down. I was like, I'd like to not only thank God, but also Jesus for this moment. On my TV right now.
I would not have given to be at your house at midnight to watch the show with you.
I was out of my mind. Like, it was just, and the thing is, you think that gay people don't enjoy other stuff. Let me tell you, like Jamie and Claire, yes, that's all I have to say.
Look,
Jamie and Claire.
A hot love scene is a hot love scene. It doesn't matter.
Right. A hot couple is a hot couple. I don't care what you are. Like, who
cares what you do on your own time? Like, that is, you want to see that on screen, people.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's exactly true. One of them's going to do it for you, so,
At least
why
one
not?
of them.
Exactly. So, yes, I loved those little innuendos. I loved it when he kind of playfully slapped her on the butt. Mm-hmm. And she laughed. Like, I just loved, like, the joy. Because you're right. You don't really get to see Claire with a face full of joy very often.
Right, yeah.
But she was so full of joy, like, just kind of when they were fooling around and stuff. And then I did love they had those serious moments where, again, they talked about Bree. Because Jamie knows that Claire came here specifically for him and had to give up Bree.
Yeah.
And being a mother. But he tells her, you gave me a child, and because we have her, we will live forever. That.
I know.
Well, that so much. Did that come straight from the book?
Who says, I actually don't remember, but it is absolutely something Jamie would say if it didn't come straight from the book, because he said very similar things. And it's just like, yeah, the perfect #perfect man, because, only a woman can write the perfect man. Thank you, Diana Gabaldon.
Thank you. This is the only time in my entire life I can promise you I've ever cared about how a man is written in a book. Like, usually I'm so like, oh my God, I can't read this. Why are you describing this about a woman? What is happening? But
no,
tables have turned.
Oh my gosh, he's Jamie Fraser and Jamie Alexander Malcolm Mackenzie Fraser.
I love the way Claire says his last name, Fraser. Like, I don't know why I fixated on that in this episode, because she said his full name. Whoever you are, James Fraser, I love you, or I want you, or whatever she said.
Oh,
so
I know. That was so many good lines. We should just go through all of this.
I know. I could honestly, my Tumblr is the hottest mess you've ever seen, because it's just all Outlander, and in my tags, I'm basically just, screaming. That's all that it is. That's it.
That's exactly what I would expect you to be doing on Tumblr right now. This would... Yeah, I wish I had seen you watch this show in person, because I feel like it would have made up for that one time a few years ago when we were doing Once Upon a Time, and you it was negative. This was the positive that could have made up for that. So,
yes, one day we need to watch something that's great like this together, because I'm watching it with my hands kind of over my mouth. Just funny. Rocking back and forth.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. How did you ever calm down? I don't know.
Well, because I watched it at midnight. But then I got that adrenaline, that high. My favorite couple just did it, and it was awesome. So then I couldn't sleep. Yeah, so then I couldn't sleep, so I was up till 2 o'clock in the morning.
You had the afterglow kind of going on.
Yeah, well, this week is a great week, because it started with Jamie and Claire, and then Rick and Michonne on The Walking Dead made out for a very good, lengthy scene.
Oh, well, there you go.
And then Jane and Kurt come back on Blind Spot on Friday, and they're married. So I'm just
oh, let me tell you.
This was a great week for me.
There's something in the water that everyone's drinking. It's just
It's because the world is depressed, so please make my characters happy.
Let's forget whatever actually happens in the Outlander books and just keep Jamie and Claire in this room forever.
If you care, Diana Gabaldon, she's not even in charge of the show. I don't know why I'm addressing
Ronald
D. Moore. If you care about the world and how we're all coping with things,
if
you could just release as much bonus footage of the print shop sex scene as possible.
Oh my gosh, that would be living the dream.
It would.
So we do have some important questions that some of our listeners... So, by the way, we're only doing this podcast bonus episode because we've actually had several requests to do it. I mean, we wanted to do it, of course, obviously.
Sure. We would have talked about this anyway for like 40 minutes tonight.
We would have, yeah. So, we're doing this upon special request. So, we also have some listener letters.
I'm so happy about this. I love you guys so much.
We have a very important question from listener named Wendy, who needs to know. She said, "You must both answer me this.
Okay.
Whose butt is better, Jon Snow's or Jaime's?"
Okay, you know, when Jon Snow's was on, I recorded the episode and I still haven't watched it. And this, I stayed up until midnight to watch. So, I think it's Jaime.
I had to Google John's, and I do have to say it's pretty good. Apparently,
it is a good butt.
It fits the golden ratio, which is actually truly impressive. I'm quite highly impressed by that. However, I do have to say I'm quite smitten with Jaime's.
Yeah, if I had to pick a butt,
yeah,
it's going to be Jaime's.
Now,
for sure.
I'm going to give like the really boring answer that no one's going to find funny, but if you watch Poldark like I do, that's quite a fine one, and I don't think you actually see it on Poldark. You have to go watch, what's the show about the vampires?
Well, then you're disqualified. No, it has to be on your show.
No. Or
you're disqualified.
I've actually looked into all of Aidan Turner's entire repertoire of every single television show he's ever made, and I've found a few good scenes there, so... Just FYI.
Well, he's disqualified. Okay. You don't count unless you show it in the show you're on.
You know what? I think that's unfair. I demand
Why? I don't... No, you gotta...
I watched all of the shows specifically for that reason.
People tweet us.
That's all I'm saying.
Tweet me in the polls. Should this guy from Poldark be included, even though you never see his butt on the show?
On Poldark. But on other shows you do. Like
I'm going to make this a poll on my Twitter.
You don't have to go too far into his background.
I don't want to watch another show for butt.
Well, I didn't think I would want to do that either, and then it just happened over the summer.
I mean, I would do it for lady butts, but...
Well, there you go.
I don't even know what else to say about this.
So, Sam versus... What is
Kit
another...
Harington.
Okay. There we go. We found
Brittany's this is not to say that Kit Harington's butt is not great, because it is. It's a great butt. But I'm biased, and, you know.
Wait, does Jaime still win?
Yes!
So Jaime is, like, the golden standard.
But see, Jaime also has, like, I mean, it's not just his butt, okay? This extends down his calves and up his abs. Like, this is not just a butt situation. He's got the whole package, if you know what I mean.
Wow, how much of Jaime have you seen? Yeah. That's hilarious.
Still gay. Just really love his butt.
I don't know. I have to say, I mean, I think he should win an award for that, for sure. So, I'm with you. I'm with you. Don't send me hate mail. I'm basically saying he still wins with some minor exceptions that may be breaking the rules.
We are going to, the voting committee and I will meet tonight and let you know what our verdict is tomorrow morning.
All right, so what else do people want to know from us? Did I get any other comments? Hang on, I've got to check. Let me see. So, just people requesting that we do this. So, I guess they're like...
That's really cool. Like, I'm digging it. Thanks, guys.
I like it.
If you're listening to this, love you.
Yes.
Once Upon a Time and Outlander are the only two shows we watch the same.
Will and Grace we watch too.
Oh yeah, but yeah,
I feel like that wouldn't be as entertaining of a butt conversation for us, either one of us.
Okay, I'm tweeting in the great TV butt debate. Can someone who never shows their butt on screen be included in said debate?
But they show it on other shows.
But no,
it's not like I went to
Outlander versus Game of Thrones.
Okay, we decided that Jon Snow's doesn't cut it, right? We both determined that.
Did.
But it's decent. It's good. Like, it's recommended that you check that out, but not required. Whereas Jamie's is required.
Jamie's is required.
That's required viewing.
I'm making proofreading myself. Poll length, we'll leave it up for 1 day. So 24 hours from right now. Tweeted. Okay, it's out there. So Britt_Duke, BRITT_DUKE, go vote in my poll. I know I'm right. You should say, if you want him to be included, the character from the show he's in. I just have one more thought before we wrap this up.
Yes.
Outlander, can you find your chill when it comes to sexual assaults? Like, can we just stop throwing Claire in rapey situations? Because
you know what? It's not the show's fault, though. That just, it's...
Is it in the book a lot?
Yeah, that's the thing about the books.
I mean, I get it. We want Claire to be our damsel so Jamie can save her, or she can do something badass and save herself, like shank a guy, which that's what it looks like she does from the previews.
It's pretty much that for the rest of the 8 books, basically. It's like non-stop rapey situations, and either Jamie saving Claire or Claire saving Claire.
I mean, as long as Claire, it's very clear that she can save herself a lot of the time. Like, I get that it's, like, swoon-worthy for, like, Jamie to say things like, kindly take your hands off of my wife while pointing a gun at someone, but still.
But here's the thing, and not that this is the defense of it, but I always find the Outlander series to be kind of a product of the time it was written in.
Yeah,
because a lot of these it was these early... The early books were written in the 90s, and even, like, the bulk of the books were written in the early to mid 2000s. And so it's a very, like, you get the sense, especially if you watch 90s movies, they're so different. Like, 90s romance movies, like, even Sleepless in Seattle and all of the classics.
Yeah.
Like, there's such a different, we just wouldn't do that. Like, and it doesn't really appeal to me either. And it's just, there was some sort of trends, like, I guess people were into, I don't know, like, these fantasies of being taken, and someday someone's going to try to analyze 50 Shades of Grey and be like, oh, those people in the mid-teens of...
Please omit the name Brittany Duke from your analysis of who was reading 50 Shades.
Me neither, but you have to admit, like, that has been a big thing, and the trend, I guess, for erotic romances just shifts over time. So all of that to say, like, I do find that the Jamie and Claire and Outlander is a little, you know, it's kind of a product of the time when it was written, and it has evolved over time. So, like, the books that have come out more recently in the 2010s have had a different slant to them, I would say. But there's some very disturbing stuff coming up. So just, like, you know, it'll be interesting. The show has tempered some of that. Like, we also briefly got introduced to a character that's very politically incorrect by today's standards.
I read that BuzzFeed article.
Yeah, and so they really, like, kind of toned that down, and they should have. So that was all good. Or as far as I can tell. And then what are some of the other things? There's some really interesting stuff coming up that it will be interesting to see how they handle. I can't say too much because there's actually a few big spoilers I don't really want to
I hear you. That's good.
But it's, so I can't even go into it, but there's an unfortunate storyline. One of my least favorite storylines is actually coming up.
Oh no. Uh-oh.
Yeah, and the 4th book is it the 4th or the 5th book? I think it was the 5th book was my absolute least favorite book. I was so disturbed after reading it because of some of these themes of rape.
Yikes.
I tweeted about it, and this was back before Outlander was famous, and Diana Gabaldon replied to my tweet personally. I didn't tag her in it or anything, and she was like, don't worry, it'll get better. And I'm like, wow. I was just so disturbed. I remember not sleeping that night because I was so disturbed and tweeting about it, and then waking up to a tweet from the author being like, she didn't apologize, but she was like, don't worry, it'll get better.
Wow.
Like,
well, that's not, I mean, that was nice that she did that.
She was very interactive. I mean, she still is interactive with fans, but now she's got like millions of fans versus a couple hundred, I guess, that were online.
Yeah.
And
makes it harder.
Yeah, but all that to say, there was some disturbing kind of stuff in the middle there, and then we're coming up on the middle, unfortunately, so it'll be interesting to see how that works out. But there's some good stuff too, because young Ian becomes a more prominent character, and that's hopefully not a big spoiler for you, but he ends up having this amazing storyline, which I'm really
That's
excited
good.
about. So,
And I'm gonna guess that Willie comes into play at some point.
it takes a while, though, I think.
Oh,
I
really?
can't remember exactly when he comes back in, but it takes quite a while. And then now in, like, book 8, he's more prominent. Like, it's...
Wow, okay.
You know, and if you think we're on book 3 right now. So, yeah, it takes a while. But, actually, Ian has a bad storyline coming up, but then a much better one later.
I will keep that in mind.
And then it kind of gets bad, and then it gets better again.
So, like, I just assume, based off of... It just can't... Just because it would be too good of an opportunity for drama
Yeah.
and storytelling, I'm going to assume that at some point, Bree does go through the stones. I'm just going to take a wild shot in the dark. Your silence confirms. Thank you. Okay.
That's a pretty good guess.
I mean, I'm just that when I'm watching the show and like the emotional goodbye, it seems like who would not use that to come up with some kind of like really emotional, really impactful surprise, here's your daughter. Like it just seems like that's what I would do if I were a writer.
Well, you know, that's a good theory. There's some good things coming up and some bad things coming up.
Okay, I will take your word for it. I will just believe you.
Yeah, but anyway, this episode was amazing. So if you guys want to hear us talk again about Outlander or other things or whatever, Jon Snow, just let us know.
So 2 people have voted in the stupid poll and they both agree with you. Or, well, no, you are one of the people and someone agreed with you. End of story.
Okay, so there we go. Poldark counts, even though it wasn't on Poldark. It was on, what was that show?
You don't even know the show. That's how memorable his vote was.
No, like, I didn't need to remember the name of the show. I just needed to watch the show for certain things. What was it? It was the roommates one. The one with the vampire and the werewolf.
Oh, the vampire,
roommates.
the ghost, and the... Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
And
America tried to do a crappy redo.
Yeah. No, you have to watch the BBC one. Actually, a pretty good series. And Will Scarlet from Once Upon a Time was also in it, which was random.
Michael Saka.
Yeah.
His sister was in Misfits. If you haven't watched Misfits, that's a great show to watch.
It's on my list, I think.
I love it. America is also going to attempt to remake that, and it's going to be on freaking Freeform, which used to be ABC Family, so of course it can't be the way that it was for the BBC. One of the person's powers is literally sex. Like, well, not sex, but, I mean, close to it, close enough. And so I'm just like, this show's gonna suck in America. I can't.
You know what? One of the worst remake ideas I ever heard of was, there was this show I really liked, this Danish show called Borgen. It was all about Danish parliamentary politics.
Oh, yeah, I watched the first episode of that and really liked it.
So Danish parliamentary politics. Well, someone in the U.S. tried to remake it and never got off the ground. But, like, how do you remake a Danish parliamentary politics show?
I don't know. That's so
audience?
dumb. What a half-thought-out idea. Like, that's
I know.
just
And it
stupid.
wasn't like you could be like, oh, just make it about the president. No, because a lot of the story was just about, like, the political negotiations of the different political parties that Americans don't really do. So it was really, that was a horrible idea. But anyway.
I need to find a place to actually keep watching that, because I watched the first episode, but it was a website that, you know, just has stuff available, and there were just so many pop-ups. I gave up.
If you really wanted to watch it, I could just email you.
I'll email you the name of the person who will get those DVDs for you.
I'll snail mail you the DVDs.
Okay. See, everybody, this is what true friendship is.
You know what? I have free shipping tomorrow. I have this promo thing that's like free shipping on Tuesdays.
This is true friendship right here. You're watching it unfold.
I was just wondering what to mail because I felt the need to mail something because it's free. Oh my gosh, let me write that in the calendar. Okay, send Brittany Borgen.
Yay, now I have something to watch on top of the other 80 things I have to watch. But I'm going to make this a priority because I loved the way it ended with dude dying. Or was it... No, the woman died. I can't remember now because it's been so long since I watched this episode. Yeah. But the death that happened.
It's a good show. It left
it on a very intriguing note that I really wanted to follow through on. And then again, just so much spam that I gave up.
Yeah, you know why? One of the reasons I started watching it is because I had finished the Outlander series. And actually the Outlander series is about, as in the book, that's about the last book I read because I found I couldn't get into any books after Outlander. Funny but true. And so that's when I started watching TV, and I became like a TV person instead of a book person.
Well, you know, I have to do that. I can't. When I finished reading Dragonfly and Amber, I literally read a bunch of novellas because I could not focus on a longer book. Yep. So I read all those 150, 200-page books that I've had laying around and got those knocked out. Right. So that counted towards how many books I read this year.
I mean,
my number.
Exactly. No, that's the way to do it. And I guess the thing is, there were two things. I like finished up Outlander while I was working on my master's, and then so like between the Outlander and the master's, like I just never want to. Yeah. I never want to read a book again ever in my life.
I'm a binge reader though, so like I binge watch TV and I also binge read books. When I say that, I mean I'll read 6 or 7 books like back to back to back to back, and then I won't read for like a month and a half or 2.
I want to be able to do that again. I think I'm almost there. I'm almost
good,
there, but not yet. I have read a few of Diana Gabaldon's novellas because she has, you know, she's very anti-fan fiction, which
she is. Which is
a lot of people are upset about that, but I actually understand why. It's because she writes all of the fan fiction. Like she just wants a monopoly on her own fan fiction.
Yeah.
Like normally I'm not with authors who are kind of that hardcore on it, but I get it in her case because every year she churns out like all kinds of stories, and
she's like her own James Patterson, but if James Patterson only wrote one series.
Right.
So she writes all of the Outlander books, but then she's also putting out like little vignettes or whatever that's basically fiction, like this is not, well, obviously fiction, but just little things that fill in blanks or whatever, just like fan fiction does.
Right. Like she's written about young Jamie. She has written a lot about John Grey. She has written even novellas with Claire or Jamie. Like she's written it all. It's like all fan fiction.
That's really cool. I mean, the only thing you're not getting out of that is like, I want a modern AU where Jamie and Claire are living in New York or something like that. Like, she's probably never going to write AUs of her own. I mean, although, who knows? That would be really awesome if, like, there were some manuscripts that came out. You guys, I was playing around with this AU, and here's modern Jamie and Claire.
Here's the Jamie and Claire at Hogwarts, or whatever.
Oh my god, do you remember all the Harry Potter?
Yeah.
Oh my god, there were so many crossovers, the Harry Potter fandom.
There still are.
Anyway, what I'm saying is there's a market for that type of fan fiction that I maybe would be like, okay.
True.
Let them put Jamie and Claire in Hogwarts and sort them. You know, like, let them do that, because you're not going to.
I hear you.
Anyway,
that's a whole other podcast episode. So.
It is. It really is.
Well, thank you all for listening to this. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast, Once Upon a Podcast, and follow us on Twitter and Facebook and all of those fun places.
Until next time, I guess that's it. I don't have a funny quip.
Don't fall through the standing stones. Or maybe you do want to fall through the standing stones.
I mean, Claire's made a really good case for herself.